Hi, everyone. Good morning. Good afternoon to you all. Hello, hello. Looks like we got people trickling in. Feel free to say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're from, where you're checking in from. Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. We are so close to Christmas, so you guys are some real ones showing up on the webinar today. Thank you for being here. All right. Good morning, Ken from San Francisco. I am in Scottsdale, Arizona. Greg is also in Arizona right now in Quartzsite. So we got some West Coasters right now checking in. We'll give it just about maybe another minute to let everybody file in. But if you're just coming in, feel free to let us know where you're checking in from in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. Luis, hello from Bolivia. I love it. All right. Looks like we got a couple more coming in. Hi, Charlie. Good afternoon to you, Chicago. I know it's probably super cold over there. We've got sunny blue skies over here in Arizona. It's about mid 60s. It's really nice. Alrighty. Evan from LA, welcome, my friend. Hi, Jen from Florida. We got NYC in the house. Abdul, welcome, you guys. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. I'm Tiana, the community manager over here at PlanHub, and this is our last installment of our monthly webinars of the whole year. We kicked off these webinars back in September to really nurture and support you guys in your journey with PlanHub and your journey in contracting to, really just help you to give you some best practices and support you in your journey. And so today we are going to be honing in on Takeoff and specifically for roofing. And so I have Greg here on the call as well, and he's going to be showing you how to save hours on your takeoffs with PlanHub. And when I say that, I do mean it. We've had many, many, many customers tell us that they have shaved hours off of their takeoffs using PlanHub and the tools that we have. And so we're really excited to have Greg walk you through all of those tools today and also get all your questions answered. And this is Greg. He's amazing. He is our PlanHub adoption support trainer specifically for takeoff and estimation. He talks to subs every day on how to use our tool, how to use it really well. So, you guys can save time doing your takeoffs. We know that takeoffs take a lot of time and you have to be precise and, really make those estimates look nice for the GCs. So we are going to be walking through all of that today from a roofing perspective. So we're so excited to have you here, Greg. Thank you for being here and sharing your insight and your wisdom. It means so much to all of us. And today we will specifically be covering different areas of takeoff when it comes to roofing. So Greg's going to be showing you guys how to measure pitched and flat roofs with speed and accuracy inside of PlanHub. He's going to be showing you guys how to use custom roof assemblies for different roofing systems, how to calculate rolls of material based on roof size and coverage, how to account for fasteners and adhesives and other materials in your takeoffs. And again, this will be all inside of PlanHub. And so while he's showing you, we're going to kick it off with a demo in just a few minutes. Here is going to be inside the platform showing you exactly how to do things. Before we get into all of that, we are recording this webinar. So I know usually we have a few people ask like, hey, are we going to get the webinar recording after? Yes, you absolutely will. So later today, we'll be posting our webinar to YouTube and sending you the link so you can tune in once again, along with this presentation as well, in case you guys want a copy of this. And as Greg is going through today, feel free to drop any questions you have in the Q&A box in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. So it'll say Q&A, has a little question mark on it. Feel free to drop any questions you have in there. Also feel free to comment in the chat if you have comments or anything you'd like to say. I will be in the chat as well, dropping links to one-on-one demos with Greg and his team. We do personalized stuff. So if you have specific questions or specific situations you want to run through with Greg and our team, you can have that one-on-one time with them as well. And of course, if you're not registered for PlanHub yet, please register so you can have access to these tools. It's completely free if your company has not registered with us before. And so you really have nothing to lose, which is awesome. And I'll be sharing those links within the chat as Greg is, rolling through the webinar today. So yeah, let's go ahead and get right into it, Greg. I'm gonna pass the
Cool.
baton over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tiana. Just want to take a moment. If this is your first webinar with us, like Tiana said, we launched a new series starting back in September, and she has brought so much creativity and energy to this process. From the adoption support team, we express our gratitude. Um, all right, so let's get started here. Bum. There we go. I'm going to pop over and I've got a couple of projects pulled up. We're going to be focusing on two different areas, specifically for roofing takeoffs. We're going to be looking at a low sloped flat roof. That's the plan page you see right here in the window. And this focuses on a convenience store. It does have a low slope. It's a quarter inch over a foot slope, pretty typical for a commercial flat roof structure. And it is going to receive a TPO system. So this is one of the synthetic membrane systems. We are going to be charging for and measuring for numerous components of the system. For instance, we're going to have to be measuring the main roof area for that overall cover board, as well as the ISO board to achieve that R38 insulation rating as requested by the plan. Some other things we're going to be talking about. We're going to be looking at the different pages of the plans that we need to go look at to get additional information. We may or may not need to measure directly on those pages, but they are critical in helping us understand the structure and how we need to go about measuring so that we can get our estimates done quickly and correctly. One thing that is a huge time saver about the PlanHub takeoff and estimation system is if you do purchase the combo product of takeoff and estimation, you get access to assemblies, and the assemblies are yours. They're custom. My partner in crime with the adoption support team, Jessica, she and I love to join up in one-on-one sessions with you guys. We'll meet up with you. We'll walk through this process again, and maybe a little slower and a little more specific to you and your company's goals. And we'll also help you with those assemblies. We'd love to get you started down that road. We'll help you build them out, understand how and why the components are included in the assemblies. I've already got some built for this particular application. I'm going to pop over and give you a little preview. Our assembly library in this demo account is comprehensive, so we're only going to be using about the first 4 or 5 assemblies on the list for this TPO system. And these are custom built ahead of time. They do have the components in there. They're pretty common. If you guys are roofers and contractors, you're not going to be a stranger to the materials that you see on this list. We're talking about the rolls of TPO, the cover board, the fasteners for it, and the plates for it, those little incidental components that you have to have as part of it. And estimating those and performing takeoff to get the measurements for fasteners and plates for fasteners, et cetera, very time consuming. And if you're doing it by paper, by hand with a ruler and a pencil, oh my gosh, my heart goes out to you. I can't imagine in this day and age doing it that way. But I know there are still companies, I talk to them every day, they're transitioning over. And yeah, they actually love the product when they see it because it is a huge time saver. It takes a little bit of effort up front. You meet with us, we talk to you, and we'll get you on board and up and rolling with the trajectory that you specifically want to head with your company with those goals. So specifically for this TPO roofing system, we're going to be measuring some very specific things. First off, we have to get a dimension of the overall surface area that's going to be receiving the main roof TPO. That's also going to be the dimension that's going to be receiving the cover board and the ISO board that will achieve that R38 as requested by the project. Let's see what else. On that same surface area for the entire main roof, we can also calculate the amount of seam tape we need for joining these rolls of TPO when we have to stretch out multiple rolls together. You got to seam tape it. We also have adhesive for all those edges and up to parapet walls and things. And this one is a fully adhered, so the adhesive here is actually going to be over the entire surface area. So again, that one measurement we're going to perform, we're going to calculate multiple materials off of that same measurement. There'll be others we need to perform along the way. For instance, we also need to charge for the conductor heads for the scuppers that are going through the wall to catch that water off of these crickets toward the back of the building. We also have downspouts connected to those conductor heads. We're going to need to charge for those as well. Another feature that we have to be concerned about is the parapet walls. If I zoom in here, you can see that every wall is marked as a parapet wall. That's around the entire structure. We move around it, every wall is a parapet. So commonly we have to be concerned with what are the heights of these different parapet walls, and it is common to have different heights of those walls on the same structure. You can have them anywhere from 12 inches tall all the way up to this one. Actually, the tallest is 9 feet, I believe. and I've seen it all the way up to 20. So it can be many various sizes, and we can accommodate those sizes in the assembly with you. We can build in multiple options for different parapet heights, so they'll all accumulate in and give you one sum total of product. That's the goal. Take a measurement, get the measurement pushed through the assembly, let it calculate the conversions for you, and then return quantities of products and prices of them because we've already programmed this ahead of time. So for this example, we're going to get started measuring right away. First thing we have to do on this page is find the scale printed by the architect. This roof plan says it's 1 inch equals 6 feet. That's a very odd roof plan. That may be one that that's a very odd scale on this particular roof plan. Let's double check down here in the title block. Yep, it does not address scale there. So we're going to be going directly off of what the page is printed at. However, that being such an unusual scale, I'm going to calibrate a scale to a known measurement instead. I'm going to choose this 11-foot measurement right back here. That dimension line is 11 feet between these slanted hash marks. And we have a tool down here on the toolbar. That scale button is the first one. So I'm going to click that to get started. If this were a common scale that we could find on any plan, we would just simply click the menu, scroll up or down and find the scale that matches and select it with a click. Then verify it with a ruler to make sure it's accurate for the page. In this instance, though, this is an unusual scale, so I'm going to go straight to calibrated. And I'm going to tell the box here that I'm going to draw your reference line that is 11 feet long because that matches that known dimension behind me on the page. Then I click set to get started. I'm going to get a crosshair for my cursor. So I'm going to line that up with the beginning point of this 11-foot measurement, center my cursor on that line and click one time. That now follows me in whatever direction I go. I'm going to move straight to the right. I'm going to drag that page with a right click and drag on my mouse. And when I get over to the endpoint, I'm going to make sure I've got it lined up in the center and click again. So that calibration line, when you click to start, click to finish, sets the scale with this being the definition of 11 feet in pixels to the computer. So it can now convert any other measurement we perform using that same conversion factor that it calculated off of this calibration. Now, to verify the accuracy, you could use the same no measurement. That green line's in the way just a little bit, so I'm going to scoot around. Let's find, there's another 11 foot right there. So I'm going to use this clear 11 foot to verify, and I like to verify using the ruler tool. That's a dimension drawing tool that's buried in the markup button. So I'm going to click there and then click ruler to launch. I'll get a crosshair from my cursor again, and I'm going to do the exact same procedures I did for the calibration line. I'm just going to center on the beginning point and click once. That follows me now, so I'm going to move straight across the page to the right, clicking and dragging with that right mouse button as I go. And then when I line up at the end point, I click again. And we're within a quarter inch over 11 feet. And honestly, if you're within an inch, that's good to go because that could just be quibbling over where you began and ended on the beginning and end point on those lines. So if you're within an inch, you're good. If not, you might want to recalibrate. Choose another known dimension, maybe a little longer, to try to get it zeroed in even closer. That is good to go for our purposes, so we're going to leave it set exactly as that. Okay, so now with the list of measurements we're going to be measuring for, number one is that main roof area. So we're going to be using the slope tool. It is a tool that is designed for roofing applications. If I open it up by clicking slope, you have options of how you can use it. Line is for your, if this were a sloped roof, and we will be using this line later over on the sloped roof asphalt shingle project because that has some ridge caps, and those ridges are going straight up that 612 roof pitch. So we need to add that dimension into our slope tool so we get an accurate measurement instead of the 2D measurement. It allows for that third dimension of the rise over run. And we will be using the multi-point for this particular plan because it is not a square or rectangle. And the 2-point, by the way, if you do have square rectangle buildings, you can measure the area with just 2 clicks. It's that simple. This one is a little odd shaped. It is not a square rectangle, so we're going to go to multi-point and click there. Next, we're going to name the tool. I'm going to call it main roof. Oops. Actually, I'm going to change that. Let's call this TPO system. The reason I'm naming it TPO system instead of main roof is because this, when we use it with the assembly in a moment, that assembly header is going to pick up the name of the measurement we choose to begin to launch that assembly with. So I'm going to name this tool something that I want to see that assembly named in my estimate page later when I use it. So I'm already thinking ahead about how I'm going to use my assemblies, what measurements are contained within them. So as you're probably picking up on it, getting those assemblies built out ahead of time is a huge time saver for you whenever you use them in a project. But that assembly is sort of driving my trajectory or driving the direction I'm going to go with my measurements. So I'm going to call this TPO system. I'm going to drop down to the slope factor box, click there, scroll all the way up, and this is a 1/4 inch over a foot or 0.25 over 12 slope for this particular one. I can also check my colors here in the appearance section. You can click the box and choose any other color from the palette. I like to choose nice, bold, bright colors that are easy to see while I'm working. And this orange is going to be very nice for us. We'll be able to see it, so I'm not going to change anything there. So really at the end of the day, to get started, I name the measurement, chose my slope factor, check my colors, and then click set. Now we're ready to start measuring. I have a crosshair for my cursor again. I'm going to pick a corner to begin, line my cursor up right in that corner, and left click one time. That starts me off. I'm going to zoom in so you can see that line right there. And let me go ahead and turn that up to 100% opacity. Actually, boom, boom, the fill is fine. Let's go with 100% on the line. That'll make it much easier to see here as we work. So I'm going to start at that corner again and click once. That line is much bolder now. You can change that appearance at any point while you're in the middle of measuring or afterwards by reopening that properties box. I think it's good for us now. We can see it. So after that initial left click, I'm going to move straight up this page. I'm going to drag the page down with my right click and drag. And I'm going to use the mouse also. The scroll wheel in between those buttons will allow you to zoom in closer or move farther away as you're working. I'm going to move right up the page, and we've already got a little bit of a speed bump to cross over here. As I try to follow this angle that the architect has drawn in, my line doesn't want to go there. It'll go before it or after it, but it doesn't want to copy that same direction. So all we have to do is just hold down our space bar. That allows free form line movement to any angle at all. We start out with the snap to angle feature engaged by default. That allows us to stick really closely with the 90-degree angles that most buildings are drawn. However, this one's got this odd angle at the back. So hold the space bar down. That lets me trace any angle that we need to follow. Drag the page up and then left click when I get to the next direction change. That left click pivots again. So I can follow the back wall there. Click at the next direction change. Hold my space bar for this odd angle. Click at the corner. And as I go down the roof, I'll double click here at the final point because that finishes the entire roof measurement. Over on the right side, we have 5,391.18 square feet of roofing material. But that's not all, folks. We also have that parapet wall to consider. Anytime you have a parapet wall in a project, you're going to need to allow that TPO to go up that parapet wall. And it depends. Some parapet walls require it to go all the way to the top and then cross over the top so that you create a seal underneath the metal coping that's going to sit on it. This particular project, though, I did bring in some extra pages. We've got our roof plane here, but I also brought in the wall sections. Over on the left side of the page, you can see the contents. I'm going to click on page 4, which is wall sections. Zoom in here so we can take a look at what that interior of that parapet wall construction is going to be. And I've underlined a little hint for us. It's going to receive a metal roof flashing, and it shows to be 24 inches tall from the finished roof up to where that flashing is going to seal the top of that TPO against the stucco wall that's inside that parapet. That's important because we now only need to calculate the additional TPO 24 inches tall around the entire length of the building. We have a tool that will do that for us off of this top-down plan, and that's the wall area tool. So I'm going to go down to my toolbar and launch wall area. And I'm going to name it first. This is going to be parapet area. So I remember what this measurement represents. And then we have to address the wall height right down here in the center of the box. This tool, by the way, is designed for the folks who typically build interior light gauge metal framing or wood framing, but they're building walls. They're doing drywall and all that stuff. So down below, we've got tools that will calculate drywall sheets, studs, even CMUs if you're bricking or blocking an exterior wall in a building. We're going to be just focusing on the area that we can measure on this top-down two-dimensional plan. We're measuring the wall we can't see. So this wall will also do that surface area of what we can't see. We just need to tell it how tall up that wall to measure or to calculate. This is easy for us. The plan calls for that flashing to be put at 24 inches all the way around the parapet, regardless of how tall the wall is. So I just need to say 2 feet right here in my wall height box. Then I'm going to go down to the bottom right and click set. To measure the length of the parapet, I'm going to measure again the exterior perimeter of the building because this parapet wall does extend all the way around. So I picked a corner to start, left clicked one time, Now I'm going to drag this across, zoom out so I can cover a little more territory a little quicker there. Click again. Click again at the angle. I already know I need to hold my space bar here to match this odd angle. So I'm going to hold my space bar, click at the corner. Everywhere you see me pause, that's a single left click to change direction. Hold the space bar if it's an odd angle. And then I'm back around where I started to terminate this section. I'm going to double click there. That's the entire roof outlined. And we ask it to calculate the surface area if that wall is 2 foot tall over on the right side of the page. There it is, 589.03 square feet. That's the additional amount of surface area of TPO membrane we need to calculate for our estimate because we're putting TPO on the main roof and up that parapet wall on the inside. So when we use our assembly in a moment, we will need those two quantities, and the assembly is going to take care of adding them together and converting them into rolls of material. All right. So next up, we've got that parapet wall measured at 589 square feet. But if we open up below, it does provide you with a length measurement because it's showing you the calculation of how it achieved that surface area up above. We measured 294.51 linear feet long at a height of 2 feet. So that 294.51, that's our total length of coping that's going to go on top of this parapet wall. We can use that directly off the measurement to calculate the amount of coping material in a moment or two when we use the assembly. So that's one measurement we don't have to do twice. It's already calculated for us. Next, let's talk about our sloped ISO board. So we're going to have to put some slope board where these crickets are drawn out for us to make sure that that water gets diverted over to those scuppers or those conductor heads and flow down the downspouts correctly. So we do need to measure the surface area of these crickets. To do that, we're going to stick with the slope tool because they're also getting a 1/4 inch over a foot slope. We want to make sure we estimate enough material, so I do want to include that slope in the process. And what's nice about that slope tool, by the way, if you're a roofing contractor, you can stick in the slope tool for almost everything you do. There'll be a couple of exceptions we'll look at in a moment over on the shingled roof, where we'll switch over to a linear tool to achieve that true flat measurement. But the majority of the time, you're going to be sticking in the slope tool, whether it's a flat roof or if it's a very high slope roof. This one is our cricket area, so I'm going to label it as such in the name. Then down below the slope factor, we're still focusing on that 0.25 over 12. Next, the colors are bright, easy to see, so I click Set to get started. Measurement technique is identical. Pick a point to start and click once. That follows your mouse now, and this angle follows very well. There's that 22.5-degree jump, but this angle right in the center is following perfectly. So I'm going to click there at the peak of that triangle, let it come down to the other side, and double click to finish. I'm going to move over to the right. We have more sections to measure with that same tool, and I want one grand total of the cricket area. So I'm going to move over to the result on the right side of the page, and here we have a continue switch. If I click that, turns the tool back on, so now I can click to begin the next measurement. This one's a little odd, so I'm holding my space bar as I click, and down the other side, holding the space bar again, and double click to finish. I'm in continue mode now since I clicked that switch, so it's going to stay active for me. I can just jump from one section right to the next. I don't have to keep turning that tool back on every time I need to move on. Then there, the double click will end that section. I've got all three of the crickets measured. There are no RTUs here, so we don't have to worry about any rooftop units like air conditioners or et cetera, any of that type of stuff. They're all ground based, so we don't have to worry about that here on this rooftop. If we did, I would continue the measurement and measure the crickets that would precede those rooftop units to again to direct that water flow down to where it needs to be draining. Over on the right side of the page, though, since I did continue this measurement, I'm going to need to turn it off with the same switch that I used to turn it back on. After you do that, you're ready to progress on to the next measurement. Next is going to be walk boards. We don't actually need those for this particular application. If we did, I would stick with the slope tool. I would create a new area called walk boards because this job, or we could use the example of using the sheets of walk board that you can buy 2 foot or 2x4 squares. Or if you do rolls, you can measure the linear distance and we could calculate the number of rolls for the material. We could do it either way. For this particular job, the walkboard's not included, so we're going to move right on to our scuppers or conductor heads. We need to count those so that we have a launching point to send a measurement through our assembly so it can calculate the prices and the costs of those. So to get started, I'm going to drop back down to the toolbar. This is one of the exceptions where you'll jump outside the slope tool because we need to perform a count. So I'm going to click the count tool right down at the bottom to launch that. I'm going to give it the name, you can call it scuppers or conductor heads, whatever you guys call it on a regular basis because when you're using this to measure your own roofs, this is for your benefit. You want to be able to easily see it and recognize what you're measuring. So you do not feel compelled to use the terms I'm using. Use whatever you guys use on a daily basis. I'm going to change that color though, because that yellow symbol as it's stamped on the page is not going to be very bright or bold. So I'm going to make that a bright red and click set in the box. Next, I'm going to hover my mouse over every scupper head, click once. That symbol is going to be dropped right there on the page where I click. And over on the right side, I don't have to keep up with how many times I'm clicking because the system is doing it for me. I click 4 times. It's got a total of 4 over here on the right side in the measurements panel. That gives us a launching point again so that we can calculate the materials, or if we purchase them pre-constructed, the price and the quantity of those that we need. Now, we also know that those scupper heads are attached to downspouts. So we need to get a total length of the downspouts. I'm going to move over to the left, and we have those wall section pages in here. Again, you know what? Actually, let's go up a little higher, and I've got the elevations in here. There we go. There's a rear elevation of the building. It is drawn to scale. It's got that odd 1 inch equals 6 foot again. So hopefully we have a known measurement we can calibrate with somewhere on the page. Boom, 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 boom. Just panning around to see if there's any known measurements. There's a 5 foot right there. So I can use this 5 foot, or I could use the canopy height at 10 foot. Either one of those is valid to calibrate the scale. So I'm going to click scale on this new page, calibrate, and we're going to calibrate to 5 feet in this instance. Zoom in, click to begin, click to stop. Now that is calibrated. I'm going to grab the ruler out of the markup, check that scale. We're 1/100th of an inch off over 5 feet. So I'm going to say that's pretty close. Okay. Now what we need to do is find out the length of these downspouts so we'll know how much material to charge for. They come in designated sections, so we may need 1, 2, or 3 sections to complete the downspout depending on its height. So the total I'm going to get the total length of these downspouts, all 4 of them combined. We're going to do that with the segment tool. So I'm going to drop down to the linear button. There's a segment tool here, and the segment tool here will have a start and a stop. It does not turn corners, which works perfect for these downspouts because they're not changing directions. So I'm going to click segment. I'm going to give this the name downspout length. It's got a color, it's easy to see, so I click set to start. Now I'm going to click at the bottom, move straight up, and click at the end. Segment tool is always in continue mode because it only takes 2 clicks to perform it. So I'm going to move to the next one and click again, move right up to the top, and click again. Every time I click, it adds the result to the previous measurement. So for those two so far combined, we're at 31.52 linear feet. Click again and add this one in. It's going to add another 15 to 16 feet to it. So now we're up to 47. And we expect another 15 or 16 feet for this as well. Click to start, click to stop, and we did. So we're up to about 63 linear feet of downspout material. All right, moving right along. That is the final measurement that we need to achieve. Let me see what that result was. I can also, even though we're on the page with the main roof, because this is where the majority of our results are, there is a show all measurement switch over here in this panel. If I click it, I'll be able to see that downspout distance right there. So I don't have to remember it when I'm using the assembly. I can just look at it straight right here off the page. But let's get started with the assembly now. That's it for the measurements we need for the TPO system. Pretty straightforward. This is a simple plan. I get that, but just for the time allowed, I didn't want anything too large or complex because I wanted to cover all the principles that we can. And that is the measuring part. That's concluded. We've got all the dimensions we need. So I'm going to get started with the assembly by choosing the measurement I want to start with, which is the TPO system. I right click there. The second option on the right click menu is send to assembly. I click to launch it. Next, all the way at the bottom, I did add a new right here, TPO fully here with cover board, which is exactly what we need for this roof. So I click to select that assembly. Next, I'm going to tell it what page of the estimate to drop into. We only have a single page created, so I'm going to drop the result right there in that page and then click add. Next, this box will open up for a couple of purposes. Number one, it's going to show you this is the measured territory you're pushing through. Is that what you want to use? If it is, we just accept it the way it is. And we also need to address the other fields. The parapet area was done with a different tool, so we can't pull those in at the same time, meaning we're going to have to look over and manually type that parapet area. So over on the right side, that parapet area right there is 589 square feet. So I'm going to type 589 right there in the box. We also have the walk pads, which is 0 in this particular case because there is no walk pad for this particular one. But that is the adhesive, and that's the TPO water-based adhesive. We don't need to add any extra to it. So it's pulling in the dimension right there. Then we click insert. That's going to force all of those quantities through that assembly, through the formulas I've attached to them previously. And we're going to get a result right here dropped into our estimate. This is only one assembly so far. We're going to be using a couple of more for this TPO system because if we open up the result of this assembly, you'll see right away there's the name of the system as TPO system. That picks up the name of the measurement. That's why I gave it that name TPO system instead of main roof or something else. Then we'll click the expansion arrow over on the right side, and you can see the individual components. We charged for the TPO 60 mil, 1,000 square foot roll. We would need, I think my formula might be a little off on that because it's calling for 5,192 rolls. So I'm going to have to go look at that assembly real quick and see what that error is. Boom, boom. I know we don't need 5,000 rolls at $1,100 a piece. So let me just double check my formula here. We'll see what that error is. You guys are getting a little peek into the world behind the scenes of these assemblies. This is how we edit them if need be. And we're taking the area plus the perimeter area and divided by 1,000. That should do the trick. Ba-ba. Mm-mm-mm. Let's don't round up and see what the actual hard-coded result is. All right, we'll cancel that. Boom. We'll wrap back over here and take another closer look at what it's telling us. It is calling for the rolls. Yeah, $5 million in TPO. That is way too much. All right. Stick with me for 1 second here. Again, you're seeing this live. And by the way, error checking is definitely a part of creating and using assemblies. Um, the absolute best way to test them, there is a test capability in the formula itself, which we're going to be using right here. So we're going to test the formula. If I enter, say, 5,000 square feet and an additional parapet area of 570, when we run it, it's saying 5,000 rolls. So I need to take the area, which is about 5,000 square feet plus there is this. I think, you know what? Let's take the parentheses off. I don't think those are benefiting us at all, except, oh, I've got you. So the parentheses were in the wrong place there. We were doing the addition here, and then we were just dividing the parapet area by 1,000. Now we're dividing the total area by 1,000. So if I save that and apply it, save changes. Now we'll pop back over to the estimate. And I want to delete out the previous assembly we used that has the incorrect quantity on it. Then we'll pop right back over to that takeoff and we're going to repeat that process. Right click on the result we want to send to assembly. We're going to choose the TPO fully adhered with cover board, drop it in the same page, click add. Our parapet area is, we're going to round that up to 570 from 569. Oops. There we go. Then write down the walk pads. That's still 0 because we don't have any of those for this job. Now we're going to pop over the estimate, and hopefully we won't see 5,000 rolls of TPO any longer. Boom, boom. Perfect. Okay. On the estimate page, when this loads up, we'll expand it out on the right side. And now we're at 6 rolls of TPO. Much more believable for this job. Cover board, we're at 169 pieces. If we scroll over to the right, you can see more information about each item. The TPO, for instance, it's calling for 6 rolls at $1,100 per roll. So I have a grand total of 6,600 for the TPO itself. Next is the cover board. We need 169 pieces at $30 a piece. So that's another $5,070. And you can see on down the list, we're also calculating the fasteners for the cover board at their coverage rate. That's per box. So this is 3 right there. That's 3 boxes of fasteners and 2 boxes of the plates. Next, we've got the TPO water-based adhesive. Those are 5-gallon containers. If I scroll over, you can cover 750 square foot per 5-gallon container there in the description. We need 8 containers at $319 a piece, so about $2,552 as the total for that. Seam tape below, we need 6 rolls, and that converts over to a price of about $2,200. Up top is the grand total for the TPO system alone, $18,785. But we're not done yet. We have more materials to estimate. We've got the dimensions for it. So up top, we're going to go over and click the takeoff button, come right back over, and we need to calculate the additional sloped ISO for the cricket area. So I'm going to right click on crickets, send to assembly. Scroll to the bottom, and right there is our Cricket's Q panel. Select it, drop it in the estimate, click Add, and additional information. Are there any RTUs? There's not. So we're going to put 0 in. It'll just calculate that Q panel based on the 104.79. That's the dimension of the area of the crickets. We'll click Insert. Next up, we've also got the conductor head and downspout assemblies we need to use. So I'm going to stay right here and I'm going to right click on the conductor entry, send to assembly, scroll down until I see conductor head, drop it in the same page, click Add, approve what we did. We counted 4 and it's showing 4, so that will be correct. And next, I'm going to show our measurements one more time to get that 63 foot there as the length, the combined length total for our downspouts. And I'm going to right click on that as well, send to assembly. All the way at the bottom there is downspout. Click to select the page I want it to fall into and click insert. Next, we're going to pop over to the estimate and let's take a look at what all those assemblies did for us. Number one, this is a very simple job, not a lot of bells and whistles involved. It's coming out to about $25,682 for the grand total of the materials on this job. I didn't add labor into the assembly, but you absolutely can. Whatever your labor rate charged, either by the square or by the square foot, or if you did by the roll of TPO, however your company charges, there's several different ways contractors can do that to accomplish the total amount of labor they need to bill for. So however you do it, we'll be happy to build that into your assembly. But our grand total here for all the materials combined, that's that 25,682 you see right up at the top. So that's it. We've had the 4 assemblies built out ahead of time, and that took a total of about 20, 25 minutes to both measure and estimate out the entire job. So let's switch gears and we're going to pop up top. I'm going to switch tabs and we're going to go look at the sloped roof. This now is a 612 pitch. It's getting an asphalt shingle. Let's see here. So the measurements we're going to need to achieve to get the total materials we need. First, we're going to be measuring the dimension of the square foot area of the main roof. We're going to be using the slope tool for that, just like we did over on the TPO system. We'll just set the pitch for this. We'll also be measuring the drip ledge, which is going to be the entire perimeter around this roof, and the ridges, where we're going to be measuring all the ridges for both hip and ridge shingles. And of course, we need our valley tins and our drip edge. So a few different measurements we're going to be performing on this plan. First thing we have to do, you probably already guessed it. This has a common scale for this drawing, 1/4 inch over equals 1 foot. So I'm going to drop down to the scale button, choose the standard scale, let it sit on this page. I'm just going to click that menu though, scroll down to find that 1/4 inch equals 1 foot, click it to select, and then click set in the box to commit to the page. Very next thing I'm going to do is find a known measurement like this 2 foot 2 inch, click ruler, and verify the accuracy of that scale. Right there, about an inch off over 2 feet 2 inches. And I was not careful at all of where I started and stopped that. And it actually looked like I stopped in the center and they went to the exterior of that wall. So that would definitely make up that extra inch. We're within guidelines, so we're free to move forward and get the main roof area. So the main roof measurement here is going to be identical to what we did over on the TPO or flat roof system. I'm going to drop down to the toolbar and click slope. Next, we're going to start a multi-point again because this is not a square or a rectangle. And one other feature of the slope tool, by the way, is I'm going to call this asphalt area. One other important feature about this slope tool is it doesn't matter how many sections. We've got numerous hips, ridges, a couple of valleys there in this roof. Doesn't matter. They all share the same slope factor. So you can use one tool to measure the entire thing at the same time. You don't have to break it up. It is all 612, so I did click in that slope factor box and I'm choosing 612 off of the list. The colors are going to be easy to see. So next, I click set in the box. I'm going to pick a corner to start, just like before. Click one time at that corner. That begins the measurement. Move straight up the roof. I'm actually going to zoom out so I can see the majority of the roof this time and get my way around it a little bit quicker here. Left clicking at every corner, exact same procedure as what we did on the previous page. And then when I get back around to where I started, and I'm going to finish the shape with this final click, that's a double click to end the measurement. All right, so over on the right side, we've got just under, it's about 978 square feet. Next, let's get our dimension lines or our dimensions for our drip edge, our ridges, and our valleys. So our drip edge is on the true flat part of the roof with 0 slope. So this is one of the deviations. We're going to move away from the slope tool because this measurement truly has no slope attached to it. So I'm going to go to the linear tool. We're going to start align measurements. Actually, I need to verify with my assembly first because I have a drip edge assembly built out, or did I put it? No, I put it into this shingle roof. Awesome. Okay. So with the TPO system, I had the main TPO roof assembly built, but then we got the other incidentals like your downspouts, your conductor heads, the items that may vary by project. They're not included with all, but they may be with some. Included those as separate assemblies that we could use if needed. With the shingle roof, though, I piled everything into one to show you that you can have a single assembly that's comprehensive for this full application. And in order to do that, let's see, you need to take a linear measurement around the drip edge because we'll need that dimension when we use the assembly. So I'm going to click linear line and I'm going to name this tool drip edge. Again, obvious name that will remind me exactly what I was measuring. I don't care for that particular color there. It's very close to gray. So I'm going to click that box and choose something brighter that's easier to see and click set. Now I'm going to trace out the perimeter of this roof, clicking one time there at the edge, at the corner, and then every other corner as I go around. Mm. And as I get back around, when I want to set the final point, again, this tool changes direction, so that's a double click on that point. Okay, next we need to get our ridges and our valleys. This plan we have a valley right here along that line, and we have ridges and roof caps on the rest of them as well. So we're going to be using the slope tool because these do slope. So I'm going to drop down to the slope line version. This is going to be for valleys. I'm going to label it valley and give it the slope factor 612 and then click set. To measure with the line tool in the slope, we just click one time to start. And just like the linear tool, it's going to follow me now whatever direction I go. So I'm going to head straight up the line, double click there at the end. There's another valley toward the front of the building. So I'm going to move over to the right, click that continue switch, turns the tool back on so I can click to start, hold down my space bar to make sure I'm following that angle and double click at the end. So our grand total length of all the valleys for this project, we're looking at about 18.2 linear feet. Need to do the exact same thing to measure all of the ridges and the hips. So I'm going to move over back down to the linear tool, start another line measurement. We're going to call this one hips and ridges. Nice bold color, click set. As you're already probably figuring out, these are very repeatable processes. So that's part of what makes this so easy and quick to use is that once you get your assemblies, your core group of assemblies set up, and you're only having to address the exceptions after that, you can go through one of these and like I'm talking as I go. It's really a lot of muscle memory that's performing the measurements. And this one changes directions and it needs extra sections. So I'm going to continue over on the right side. Click to start, click around the corner, and follow that ridge all the way to that gable end and double click there to terminate. One more little ridge here to catch, or this is a hip, I suppose. So I'm going to click there to start and double click to finish. Now, our grand total for our hips and ridges, 78.88 linear feet. Since I continued it, I will need to click that switch to turn it off. Okay, there's no gutters, no downspouts on this plan. So that really does represent all the measurements we need to build for all the components. So let's get started. I'm going to move over to the right side on the asphalt shingle area. I'm going to right click there and send to assembly. I'm going to scroll to the bottom so I catch my new ones. There's my shingled roof I added for today's project. And by the way, I added these for today's project so that they would be very specific as the examples I would explain to you as we go. But for you guys, you build the assembly once for the shingle application. It's in your system until you change it. So whatever job you come to that needs a shingle roof, you just recycle and reuse those exact same assemblies. All right, here's our extra info that we need to add. Number one is the hip and ridge length. Over on the right side of the page, that's about 78.88. So I'm going to round that up to 79 feet. Then all the way at the bottom, we've got our valley flashing there. Over on the right side, that's 18.2. So I'm going to round that up to 19 feet of material. Then click Insert. Boom, 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 boom. All right, it's going to push that information through the assembly just like it did for the TPO. I'm going to move over to the project estimates, and I just realized I should have created a new page, but that's all right. You can rename these pages in the estimate, by the way. Right now, it's labeled as the default project estimate 1, but we could rename that to the shingled roof or whatever you'd like to see it as. The pages here in the estimate world are just designed to help you organize your work. So if you need to break it out into groups, you can add additional pages and name them accordingly. So here's our asphalt area on the assembly we used for that shingle system. Over on the right side, I'm going to expand it open. And let's take a look at what we calculated. We've got the shingles. We're going to need 10 total squares of shingles because we're charging by the square, and that is 110 bucks each. So it's a grand total of $1,100 for the shingles. Below that, we've got our hip and ridges, 33 linear feet per bundle for our hips and ridges. So we're going to need three of those. The grand total price of that item, $255. On down the list, the starter shingles, we would need one bundle of the starters at $63 each. Below that, we need coil nails. We calculated how many coil nails you can do per square, and that's how we calculate the grand total. We need $28 worth of coil nails there. On down, we've got the synthetic underlayment. We need one single row at $158. And let's see, did I add in the description? Mm-mm. Yeah, 10 squares per roll. So that makes perfect sense. We're at about just under 1,000 feet. 10 one roll is going to be 10 squares or 1,000 feet. So that one roll of underlayment works perfect. Ice and water below that. We need two of those. Valley flashing, two of those. And here's the dimensions in the description box so that you can keep track of what calculations are being performed to convert those measurements into the quantities of materials, such as ice and water. We need two pieces. For valley flashing, we need two pieces, and we need 8 pieces of drip edge. Then we've got our totals for each one of the items in the total column. Up at the top of the assembly, there's our grand total for the materials right there. Boom. Same thing as before. You can expand it open to see all the details. It's always going to present to you on your estimate page as a green header that picks up the name of the measurement that you chose to send through it to launch the process. So there it is, folks. In about 35 minutes or a little bit over that, maybe 40 now. We've measured and completed the measurements for takeoffs for 2 roofs, had the assemblies built ahead of time. So it made it super fast and easy just to build those out so we can get the total for the materials. And again, could have done the labor the same way, would have been calculated along by either the number of squares, square feet, or the roof system. If we figure out time units and attach time units to installation of the different materials, we can absolutely calculate your total labor off of your time units as well. It just depends completely. There's so many variables. It just depends on how you guys in your specific companies like to accomplish those tasks. Okay, I'm looking over my list and make sure that we've covered everything we could. And I've seen a bunch of questions come in along the way. This feels like a great time to stop and address any pending questions we may have in the list. Tiana,
Yeah.
what do you got for us?
Thank you so much for that, Greg. That was amazing. I hope that was helpful, everybody. If you do have questions, feel free to drop them in the question box right now or even in the chat. We did have one come in a little while ago that said, can you export the measurements or import assemblies? I'm not sure if you touched on that.
Okay, absolutely. You can export your measurements, and over on the right side of the page, when you're performing them on the job, that's the measurements panel, and every takeoff you do will have the exact same measurements panel on the right side. But also at the top of the window, there's a project measurements tab. Every measurement you make in the project, no matter what page it's on, this is a dynamic table that collects all of the results of those measurements. This can be exported. I'm going to export using the button in the upper right corner. And I think in the webinar, I'm just sharing the window, so I'm not sure if this will show, but it opened in Excel on my other monitor. So hopefully that little spreadsheet there is showing on the screen share.
Yep.
Okay, good. Yep, that is a direct output of the table of measurements. So you absolutely can export those measurement results. It's got your custom names in column B, along with your quantities and your units of measure over in F and G. So it's got all the exact same information that we see on the window behind us there in the table. So that's the measurements. And we do have an import function for assemblies that was just added a couple of months ago. Our product manager, Emily, is on top of this assembly world. She's done so many improvements over the past year or year and a half that she's been with us. And one of those was you have the ability to use a template to fill in the assembly items. There's two different ways you can do it. You can manually create them window to window, filling in the fields as you build it, or you can just download the template. The template, again, is an Excel format or spreadsheet format. So if you have Microsoft Sheets as your default XLS program, this will open up in Google Sheets for you. This has 3 pages to it. You've got the README, which is instructions of exactly how to fill it out. Then it's got examples of what it should look like afterwards. There's several different assemblies on this list, so it's showing you multiple at the same time. Then the template itself, this is the sheet you would fill out with the information that the assembly needs. The name of the assembly, what measurement tool you're going to use to get the quantities, and your individual items that you need to bill for. When you're done, and let me show you this real time because I love this as an example. So I've got some assemblies already built up and created in the spreadsheets. So if you do take the time and build out your items and fill in all those boxes, when it comes to import it, I'm just going to move over, click that add assembly, upload XLS, browse to the folder where I've got those things stored. And let's pick out, we'll just re-upload one of these that I've got done. So we'll do another TPO fully adhered with cover board. I'm going to click open and there we go. Now I'm going to click upload. That's it. Already got a confirmation banner and it's updating the list. Right here on top is the assembly I just added. So it literally takes seconds to upload them off of your XLS form if you choose to create them that way. They do need to be in the specific format though, so using that template, at least the very first page of it, is required. What else do we have?
Amazing. Perfect. It looks like we only had one more question come through, and I believe it was while you were showing the last part of the takeoff. Someone had asked, wouldn't the hip be sloped on this?
Oh, okay. Let's see. When I was on the last part of the takeoff, that was on the slope roof over here, so that could have either been with the oh, I bet they caught out a cheat there. Absolutely, you caught me red-handed right here on this gable end. I did use the linear tool and I did calculate that with a 2D dimension. That was strictly for time. We could have done it independently, and I'll do it right now live to show you. If we're gonna do that and add that slope in, then we're gonna start the slope line tool. We're gonna set that at 612, and we're gonna end up with a linear dimension and a slope dimension that we'll have to add together and input it into the assembly for that item. But yep, absolutely. So we could call this the gable drip edge, I suppose, would be appropriate for that. Click set, and then we'll just come in and measure this as a 612 slope all the way across. Also on that back gable, same thing. I'm gonna click the continue switch over here on the right side, and we're gonna zoom in. Let's measure this back gable as well all the way across the back because those two angles share the same slope. And there's our additional measurement, 26.10 feet. And if we want to be very precise, we would need to go back in and pull out the straight line measurements that went across those as well. But good eye, absolutely, you are correct. You can use multiple tools to get the measurements you need if you need to. And honestly, sometimes on drip edge, my driving force there was, you know what, those are 15-foot sections. So if I have a couple of feet left over, no problem. I can use that to make up a corner under the job, or maybe on this one later, something of that nature. So it wasn't that important to me that I hit the specific amount of estimating material on that particular item. I was leaving a little bit of buffer in there to get some extra material if we need it.
Perfect. Thank you so much for answering that, Greg. It looks like someone
Mhm.
just dropped in. Does it calculate the 2-foot taper fill?
The 2-foot taper fill. So I am not a roofing contractor by trade. So if you wouldn't mind, could you give us a little bit of detail what you mean by the taper fill?
Norberto, if you wouldn't mind dropping that in the chat for us. It looks like Maria made a comment that measure is called rake. Not sure what she's referring to there.
Mm.
While we're waiting, if anybody has any other questions or comments, feel free to drop it in the Q&A box, drop it in the chat for us, and Greg can answer those for you.
So it looks like just from a little bit of research there on the side that what they're talking about there is to figure the actual slope of the roof. And there's nothing here in the system that will do that, but the blueprints will usually call it out for you and tell you what that slope is. I haven't found a single plan over the last 2 years. And by the way, I train about anywhere from 4 to 6 folks a day and over about 2 years, and I haven't seen a single roof plan yet that did not include that slope factor. But so I hope that's what you were talking about there.
Maria chimed in again. She says, I want to know how to use the library.
Yeah, no problem. So the library here in the takeoff world um, is, boom, there we go. If I click over, it's got the list of all the assemblies created for the entire account, but also it's got saved measurements. So if you perform the same measurements from job to job, which most contractors do, it becomes very repetitive over time. You can set up those measurements, use them one time, and then save them to your library. I'm just going to collapse all my folders down here, and it's as simple as we can click the new folder button up on the right side of the search panel. Click that. It's going to add a new folder to the bottom. I can right click and rename. So this is going to be a sample. You know what? Let's just name it roof. That's our topic for today. So we're just going to call it roof. That gives us a destination to save measurements specific for that use. So over here in the measurements panel, where I've done the asphalt area for this particular job, we can right click on that and let's open the properties. What we're going to be saving is the name, description, unit cost, item type, slope factor will not save because that's independent per project. So that will need to be set when you use the saved measurement. And that's logical. Every plan's a little different on the slope. Even though you do some of the same low slopes repeatedly, you're still going to need to set the slope factor. You don't want to automatically assume the slope. And the colors will also save. That's what you will save out of the box. So I'm going to right click on the result, drop down and hover over libraries. Then I left click to drop it into that roof folder. So the next time I come to a project where I need to measure the asphalt area for shingles, I can go to my library, open up the roof folder, and right there, there's a plus symbol. Click it to start. This is already being addressed. We're going to set the slope factor for what we need it to be, then click set. Then we're off and running measuring with that tool in a brand new instance of the measurement. So if you do take the time, set those measurements up the way you want to see them in the future, save them to the library, and you can use them off of the library with just a single click moving forward.
Perfect. Hopefully that answers your question, Maria. All right, it looks like we got a little bit more elaboration. Oh, it's the 2 inch fill in the cricket. That was my mistake. I thought that was 2 feet.
I got
So
you. Okay.
that's what they were referring to. So does it calculate the 2 inch fill beyond the first Q panel, the cricket area?
So yeah, it absolutely can. Anything that we can create a formula. And by the way, let me show you what the formula world looks like here in the assembly so you'll get a picture. So any of the items, let's just take that TPO fully covered board. We'll edit that and I'm going to look at let's take a look at the TPO for instance. So if we open up the formula we created to calculate the total amount of TPO, we took the area that we measured off the main roof, added that to the area that was provided by the parapet, and then divided it all by 1,000 square feet because that's how many square feet are in a roll of material. So that's a formula we manually create when we work with you to set up your assemblies and help you get started down that road. So the answer to the question is absolutely it can calculate anything at all automatically as long as we can create a math formula together that will achieve that desired result.
Perfect. Thank you, Greg. Thank you guys for chiming in on that and elaborating, Alberto. We really appreciate
Mhm.
it. Okay, do we have any other questions? Any other questions before we let you all go? And also, we'd love to hear if this was helpful or not. If you could let us know in the chat if this was helpful for you, if you got some insights that you didn't know before. We'd love to hear a little feedback. And just as one last reminder, we are going to be sending out the recording as soon as the recording is available from Zoom, and we'll send that out via email either today or tomorrow. And we'll also send a link to the one-on-one demo, a link to register with PlanHub as well if you're not registered, and a link to the deck as well. All right, it looks like we don't have any more questions, Greg. Greg, thank you so much for your time today and your insights. It was so helpful. Thank you, everybody,
My
for taking
pleasure.
time out of your day to come and learn with us and learn more about PlanHub and our Takeoff feature. And we hope it was helpful. And I'm wishing you all a really happy holiday, and we'll catch you in the new year. We'll have new webinars rolling out for 2026. They're going to be really exciting and fun. So we hope to see you there. And everybody take care. We'll catch you next time. Bye.